Every month I try and do an on-location sketch in real time, warts and all, to share tips and tricks about urban sketching. I was with a big family group this time and really I couldn't sit and sketch this. So I'll wait till I'm back home and then I'll do it from a photo. For all sorts of reasons, I haven't been able to do an on-location sketch with Liz this month, but we did visit this cider farm down in Somerset and I took a photo and I thought, oh, that would be fun. So I'm going to sketch in my studio, but try and imagine that I was sitting bang in the middle of the car park on this rather hot day with cars trying not to run me over, and we'll sketch today. You can find that photo on the post section of this channel if you fancy having a go in your own style. What I did think I'd do is I haven't sketched with a fountain pen for absolutely ages, and I'd heard about this new ink from Diamine called Forever Ink. It's a waterproof fountain pen ink and I want to test it out because finding a waterproof fountain pen ink is rarer than hen's teeth. I use an ink, a black ink called Platinum Carbon, which is a Japanese ink, beautiful and very waterproof. The other ones I like are a German ink. Oh gosh, it starts with a K. I'll have to remember what it's called and put it in the caption. Anyway, I've got a lovely grey ink from them if I'm not feeling harsh. But these come in, I think, 16 different colours. So I'm waiting for a couple more to arrive through the post. But I have this black called Raven. I put it in this cheap fountain pen. It's just from Dollar. It's got a reservoir, an integral reservoir that you just take this little bit off the end and twiddle and it sucks the ink up. So I'm not using cartridges and it hasn't got a filler that can come out. I'm going to use my little moleskin sketchbook, which I have had for ages. Look, 2022. Some of these sketches have already been here on YouTube. Some are just ones I've done here and there when I've been on holiday. And I thought it was about time I tried to fill it up. So let's find a double page spread. There we go. I've only got a few sheets to go. This is quite a creamy colour paper, but it's very smooth, so I thought it'd be fun to use the fountain pen on that. And I want to make sure I've got enough space to get that lovely weather vane in the top. My tendency is always to go too big and things sort of go off the top. So if your tendency is similar, put a few dots just to make sure everything's going to fit in. So that's the dot for the weather vane, then for the triangle on top of the bell tower, then the bell tower, then the spirey bit, then it comes down to about here for the top of the cider press, and I reckon the cider press can come down here. Yes, it fits in. If I was on location, I wouldn't be doing a pencil underdrawing because quite often you're under time pressure. You're maybe a bit uncomfortable. There's a sort of, or you're perched in the middle of the car park and you're about to get run over, or you're with people and they've only got so much patience. So I tend to just go straight in. If my proportions are not perfect, well, never mind. So I also like to do a sort of continuous line within reason, because I think that gets things flowing, and again it can be quite a speedy way of getting information down on paper. And just never know what's going to happen. Is there going to be a delivery that parks in front of you, or will the heavens open? And fine. So I'm doing pretty much a continuous line and just putting in some of the information. I'm looking at angles. So this comes down over here, the roof line, how that goes there. Looking at the windows here. I think I would like to maybe bring this tree, make it a bit bigger behind there, because it sort of just closes our eyes over. I wish I hadn't put that line there, but that's okay. If you've done something that you're not happy with, just work it into your drawing and don't worry. Now, what I did really like was this huge parasol, and I'm just trying to pay attention to which way the triangles go. It is quite easy to make assumptions. Then what I do like as well are all the people sitting having their pints of cider underneath. They're really in shadow, so almost silhouettes, and they don't have to be anything more than that, maybe. Just to imply lots of people enjoying a drink in the sunshine. Looks like I've left rather too much space over here. That should be all right. Do I want to put the benches in? I'm dithering. Actually, I do think maybe one bench would just be quite nice. I put sort of a bench there. That would be good. Now, there's another building over here. Let's get that in there. That sort of chimney. Oh, I'm going very wibbly wobbly. So I'm really trying to draw this as if I was perched on a stool or a bench in the middle of this car park, so it would be wibbly wobbly. I just think things that are on location have a spontaneity and an energy, sort of lights above this sign, that you just don't get when you're painting or drawing from a photo. Can I slightly extend this? Because I've definitely made that not wide enough. No, probably not. Does it matter? No, probably not. Now this is an old apple press as far as I know, and it's got these sort of bands round it to stop it from collapsing. So I think those are quite nice to get in. Sort of go around here. We'll put another one there. But they're all sort of staggered. And they all come round like that. And put in Sheppy's. Whether it says House of Cider, or, well, it does say House of Cider and Fine Foods. That doesn't really matter. I can confirm that the food was indeed very fine. We had lovely fish and chips and a pint of cider. Put these bottom windows in behind my people. I can't see what's going on here, but I quite like the planter that's sort of more in the foreground there with the flowers in. So let's just indicate that. the sweep of the curb, which I do like because it sort of sweeps round that wonderful barrel. The basis of the information that we need. Let's just get this lovely weather vane. See quite what's on top. Something. Well, we'll just do wiggles because there is something going on there. Now, what I don't think I've quite got is that lovely upturn. There's obviously a bell or something going on in there. And then there's a big overhang. Right, what other information do I need? Maybe those ridge tiles I quite like. The sort of from top to there. And these are tiled round here. So by doing this sort of continuous line, we can just grab some information and get an impression of the place in what, 10 minutes? I don't know, I haven't timed it. And then go back in and maybe add in things like these windowsills or the bars on the windows. Really doesn't matter how many are there. That just again gives the impression of a little bit of detail. Might, I don't know, put some of the bricks. Unfortunately, my recording seems to have given up on me at this point, but what I'm doing is just putting in a few final details. I really can't see what's happening with the legs of tables and the legs of the drinkers, but I'm sort of putting in a bit of an indication, a few details on the window bars and just extending that roof line because that vertical sort of stopping slightly annoyed me. I'm not going to put in every roof tile. I'm certainly not going to put in every brick. I do want to just slightly emphasize that curb because I really like the shape of it, and of course it is closest to us. It's important to stop too soon rather than too late because in the end we're trying to capture an impression of the scene rather than a really detailed rendering. Now this is a bit I've been waiting for. I want to see how waterproof this ink is. I haven't left it to dry. My brush was obviously a little grubby there, but no, the ink did not run at all. Now, I didn't really have a full plan about what I was going to do with colours on this, and that was possibly quite foolish. I just decided I'll keep it really simple, primarily using French ultramarine, bit of cadmium yellow and a bit of cadmium red, because again I wanted this to be as close to me sitting in that car park, not trying to be run over. So I would suggest to you that you have a better plan and that you make an active decision. Here I'm really sort of sloshing the paint on. I'm using the blue both for the sky and for sort of shadow areas, trying to leave little glints of the paper coming through. I'm using a lovely quill brush that I got with a set of paints. It hasn't got a number or anything over exciting. It's from Lightwish. I'm putting in the deep shadows under that umbrella and making sure I leave the triangles of the umbrella white. I'm not colouring in the shapes. am following the lines particularly because I do like it when paint has a job to do as well as the lines. At this point, I've got most of the shadows in, so I need to think about how to imply that there's brickwork going on. So I've grabbed a little bit of the cadmium red light because it's quite an orangey red, and I think that'll do for implying a bit of red brick. I'm not going to put it all over again because I really just don't want to. This is a sketch. It's just meant to capture enough information but not too much. So I'm putting some spots of red both on the main building, the tower, and on that little side building to the left. If you've put colour in one place, it's quite nice to dot it around, which is why I've put it onto the curbs. And then I've grabbed a little cadmium yellow to capture some of the sunshine on the roof. Why I put red trees, I have absolutely no idea. And luckily I decided to change them. So I got a dark bluish green, left gaps in that foliage. It's just meant to capture in your eyes, and I'm doing a little bit of splatter just to loosen that up and pull our focus through to that tower, which is the thing that I'm interested in. I thought it needed a little bit of punch, so I've got some indigo, and using the tip of this nice brush, I'm doing some, I guess you'd call them calligraphic strokes, just emphasizing a little bit of the windows, a little bit of the people under the parasol, just a few punchy darks. Watercolour comes to life when you've got nice extremes of light and dark, and so I'm just adding a little bit in to keep it going. In hindsight, I really wish I'd connected more of the shadow areas. As soon as I start to connect the shadow on the press with the shadow on the tower and travelling up, I think it hangs together a lot better. I sort of wish I'd done a bit more of that, but hey, you live and learn. I'm trying again not to do too much, but just to pull the different elements of the sketch together. I need to pull this little left-hand building across. I was a bit concerned I hadn't given it a wall or an edge, but actually the watercolour does that work for me. And now I'm just putting in some of the deep shadows from the overhang. Little emphasis at the front because of course that is closer, putting in a bit of shadow there. All that's left to do is put in the gutsy shadow of the press and just to make a note about where I was. So I'm just writing Sheppy's there. Some people have beautiful handwriting and make it part of their design. Sadly, I don't. Now it's over to you. I would love to see what you do with this photo, how you interpret it. You could do a very quick sketch like this. I think this was really about 20 minutes from start to finish, or you could do something far more considered, maybe a monochrome, maybe add colour, entirely up to you. If you post it online, please use the hashtag sketchwithliz, and then we can all see what each other of us is up to. I loved how the Forever ink behaved. It didn't move a jot with the watercolour. So if you use a fountain pen, do give it a go.